Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Chai After Dark. I am Sameem. I'm here with my lovely co-host, who is already married, by the way. So everybody back off. Shabnam. I'm not going to allow that. I don't allow shenanigans.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get you on the show as a contestant since I can't be. So I'm going to have you be a number one contestant on the show.
Hey, I think after that first episode, I'm not allowed on that show. So let's switch roles on this second part. Okay. You go snarky, let me chill.
Okay. I'll let you chill.
They're not letting me on that show after that first episode.
Oh man.
Chai After Dark, we are back. We're going to discuss this latter half of Muslim Matchmaker, which you can find on Hulu. And as a reminder, everybody please check out part 1 of Muslim Matchmaker. And as a further reminder, you want to hear more of this. We did review Indian Matchmaking. Please scroll up on Spotify or Apple. You'll find 8 episodes and a final culmination. Vyasar, who was the golden heart of Indian Matchmaking. So everybody go check those episodes out.
Yeah. So in our last episode of Muslim Matchmaker, we talked about the show overall. We talked about Queen Mariam herself, Fulani from Old Town Road, and then we also talked about Noreen, who doesn't want to be with a misery Muslim. Nope. And for this one, we're going to talk about the rest of the characters. So buckle up because our first contestant is Uneeb, aka Neebs, familiar face from Salam Nerds podcast that we just did a crossover with last month. So
friend of the show.
How about that? Yeah, friend of the show. I was like, hey, I know that guy.
Yeah. I mean, good for him. Hey, we did a great recap. We're hitting every single promotion that we can on this episode. Everybody go scroll up. We did an amazing recap of The Glassworker, Pakistan's first 2D animated film. You know what? Neebs also had the Pakistan flag up on Hulu.
Yeah.
Hey, that was great. That was really great to see. And it's not to be like nationalistic or anything like that. It's just really nice to see.
Yeah, it was. He's proud of who he is, and that's cool.
Yeah, so friend of the show. What's up, Uneeb?
Yeah. Most famous Uneeb.
Hey, probably, right? He's probably the most famous Uneeb in the United States today.
He's such a unique Uneeb. You know what I mean?
Oh, hey, so Uneeb, I liked his list. I liked what he wants and what he doesn't want. He's probably the most well-grounded person on the show, but I'm going to make the distinction that he's 40 years old.
Yeah.
And like we talked about on the last episode, Fulani was 28. So there's and Fahim is 29. So there's a lot of age variation here. He is 40 years old. And that's not a negative thing. I think it's to say he knows what he wants.
Yeah, and I think it's to say, if you notice, he seemed to say the least stupid things on television. So more power to you, Neebs.
He was nervous as shit, though. Yeah. He was nervous as shit, but he didn't say anything like ridiculous. He didn't say anything stupid. I would say Queen Mariam said some stupid ass shit, and I think she probably said even more stupid ass shit that was cut out, right?
Yeah,
There's no this shit was edited really well, by the way. It's probably the most extreme editing I've ever seen.
So I've been like stalking some of the folks online from the show, and they said, for example, the editors made the dates look more awkward than they were, but I feel like all first dates are awkward. Like, so what? I don't think that's like necessarily a bad thing. Like, what are you supposed to be like extremely comfortable on a first date? Who is? Nobody is.
Except me. No.
Okay.
I mean, okay. I guess I have to tell a dating story here. I don't have to, but I'm going to. So I did some opposition research. Not opposition in the sense of like, I don't want to ever get married. But I did download Salam and Muzmatch in the last 2 weeks to prep for this conversation. I wanted to bring it up in the first episode, but so I did.
Okay.
And
do you need some deep breaths?
Yeah, I need to take some deep breaths. I wasn't sure.
You're turning red.
Hey, I do know that people reached out to other people that I know because they said they saw Sameem on these apps. I'm not, not just you, Shabnam, other people as well. So I was on these fucking apps for 4 days. And I texted you and I was like, I'm deleting this shit. It
Yeah.
it was triggering. I don't see a
Yeah.
distinction. Great point that this show makes is that the
Mhm.
apps only work due to dumb luck.
Yeah.
And that's a great point that they make because I felt the same thing. There wasn't anything I could get from any of these apps. You're telling me you don't
Mhm.
drink? I already know that. You're telling me you're Muslim? I already know that. You're telling me that I can't come home at 4 in the morning once we're married? I already know that. So, like,
Yeah.
I don't need the apps, but the show does reference the apps a lot, and I'm glad they did because my experience matched their experience, and I just wanted to do
Yeah.
that research.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like it's to your point, the whole dumb luck on the apps. Like before I was married, some girls used to tell me like it's just a numbers game. And I mean
Yeah,
everybody hates other people's explanations and loves their own and whatever. So I'm sure like people are going to like hate my philosophy around it, but like that really irked me because I'm like, "Oh, that means I have to go through a bunch of trash." And then like
yeah,
to like it's like a hazing process almost it feels like when you think about it like that. But I don't know, for me I was just like it's a chance thing. It's going to happen when it's going to happen, and if it's going to happen in the way it's supposed to happen and I can't really control it and I just need to like move on and live my
yeah.
life. And then I ended up marrying somebody in real life
Hey,
and
you did tell
finding them.
me we
Yeah.
can cut this out, but I remember 8, 9 years back. I mean, I've known you for a long time. You did say,
Yeah.
"I'm very happy alone, and I'm gonna be alone." I remember
Well,
that.
I
You
was
you reached a
yeah.
realization once, not
Yeah,
once,
I
but
did.
yeah,
Yeah, like, I reached a realization where I was just like, "I'm just gonna live my life and enjoy it." I think I remember,
yeah,
like, the dinner you're talking about,
yeah.
and I was just like, "I'm just gonna enjoy it, and, like, if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, I still have, like, a good
A-
life."
And
And yeah.
we were
Yeah.
enjoying life, and I
Yeah.
don't think your life was any less fulfilling than the
Yeah.
lives of people that did get married at the age of 26 or 27.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know you in your head, but I can
Yeah.
tell we had a great
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do you need to get
Yeah.
married to be happy? We're getting a little too philosophical, but email us chaiafterdark@chaiafterdark.com. Let us know. Are you happy?
Yeah, I mean, happiness is elusive, right? A lot of people that are married are very unhappy. A lot of people that are single are happy. I think people always, just humans, you always feel like the grass is always
Yeah.
greener. And so you're always trying to look for something more or something else. And I think fulfillment and happiness is something you have to like find on your own within yourself. For me, I'm a fan of therapy. And, now I did get married and I am happy. But I don't think people talk enough about how any big life change is a huge adjustment. And even if it's good, the adjustments are very difficult. And it is difficult. It's difficult to adjust to a
Mm.
relationship. I'm sure it's difficult to adjust to being a parent. It's not that these things are like bad because I think once you adjust, then it's almost like you're like, I can't imagine life without it, right? But like, it's hard, and people don't want to talk about that. They just want to be like, oh, do it, everything will be fine, it's great, and like they don't talk enough about that, you know.
Do you think adjustment is another word for compromise? Because two
I
people would
don't
have
know
to
that.
adjust, and you know what I mean? Because a lot of these people
Yeah,
have these lists, and we talk about it on the first part of this series. I Are they being true to themselves by going through a list and then dwindling down the list and compromising? Or do you want someone that you have a very extreme emotional attachment with? And then the list doesn't matter. So I've done both, and they
yeah.
both
Sometimes
were
if
kind
you
of strange.
Yeah, sometimes you have like an extreme emotional attachment, and it can be because there's like toxicity there, right? Like there can
Oh,
be like
yeah.
some kind of shared trauma that like magnetizes you guys, right? So one of the things that's I feel was awkward for me in the beginning of me getting to know my husband was that we didn't have a shared trauma, so it wasn't like that. So we became friends first, and like I was like, Is this how it's supposed to be? Or is this not like workable?" Right. And then I realized, oh no, that can actually be really good and peaceful. But I just didn't have that experience before because I used to have these like shared trauma type emotional bondings that like were just
Mm,
cluster Fs,
mm, yeah.
you know? I don't know.
Yeah, and if you think
So
about it,
I don't
Shabnam,
know.
that's a great point because toxicity comes in many different forms. But if you're saying you have a nice, stable life right now, it means you're in a very secure attachment, right? Generically
Yeah.
speaking, You don't
Yeah.
have what you've had in the past. You don't have any sort of ups and downs. Of course you do, but let me cut that back. Let
Yeah,
me
they're
restart.
not extreme. Like, yeah, they're
Yeah.
not extreme, and that takes communication between the two
Yeah.
people, but also that individually you have to be okay with yourself and like let the other person do their thing and be okay with that. Like Queen Miriam trying to get his location and all that stuff, get him to share his location. Like me and my husband don't share each other's location. And I feel like that's good because like, you know, in the course of a marriage, in the course of an entire relationship, I feel like there's going to be points at which you feel like insecure. Not like that they're cheating on you necessarily, but like, you know, they're spending less time with you or they're busy at work or they're going through a tough time. And it's so easy to go down the road of like, well, let me just like see what they're doing, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a slippery slope. And I just like that that's like, that's not something that I like have access to, and my husband doesn't have access to my, but it's not like I can't he's going to tell me where he is if I text him, you know?
No, I know. Yeah.
So,
I
and
mean,
we
with
both
Queen
work from
Miriam,
home. So it's
yeah,
yeah.
you guys are good. Like that's what I said.
Yeah.
Like a stable,
Yeah.
boring relationship, and boring not in a negative sense, but boring in the
Yeah.
sense that when you do have a toxic relationship, it's extremely fun at some points, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like because that's the whole point. Like the highs are so high, it's so good, but then the
Yeah.
lows are just you don't know what the fuck is going on, and you don't know what
Yeah.
you guys are talking about. But for you guys, like yeah, if you want to get out of that toxicity cycle, you do not share your location with Miriam, Queen Miriam, 2 days after you meet her, right?
Yeah.
And
That's insane.
that's how you end up in these situations. And for her to say like, I didn't do that, I didn't cry, Umar said I cried. I'm like, come on, man.
Dude,
You
she's
shared your
talking about how she has so
yeah,
much anxiety and then she says she didn't cry. It's like, girl, you cried. Like when you have that much anxiety, you will cry.
yeah,
Like if you're trying to communicate your feelings and feeling vulnerable and feeling like the other person's not listening, that's just a natural reaction. So it's just weird to be like, I didn't cry. Like, I mean, come on. Like
yeah, come on, yeah.
you're
So
asking for his
yeah,
location. He doesn't want to give it to you. And then you're embarrassed about crying. Like that's the least part of what you should be embarrassed about.
yeah. I mean, Miriam and Umar didn't work out. She got super attached within 3 dates. They shared each other's location. She shared her location. He did not. And
Yeah.
then she got all butthurt when he said he actually wanted to date her. And then it was her or Bucky, and they're like, "What are we gonna do for 3 years? We don't have premarital sex." So I was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, then you just watch TV, watch some dramas." And then Bucky does
Netflix, don't
reference,
chill.
yeah, Netflix, don't chill. But Bucky says to a certain extent, no premarital sex. So there was one reference, and I was very surprised when I heard that. So
Yeah. To a certain
yeah,
extent.
to a certain extent, she doesn't do anything, which means she does stuff if you twist it. But I'm not putting Bucky's business out
Or
there.
she does some things and doesn't do other things.
I think that's what it means. Yeah, but isn't that
Yeah.
everyone? Even if you're having a sexual relationship with your wife or your husband, aren't you doing something and not something at one time? So whatever. I don't know. I don't want to
You
talk
can't
about
do
what Bucky. Yeah,
you
you can't
can't
do
do
all of
everything
it.
at once.
Yeah,
You can't do
yeah.
everything at once.
I'm not multiple appendaged. I'm sorry.
Oh, we went too far.
Woo! Hey, Yasmin, if you're listening, yeah, bring me on the show. I promise I'll keep everything copacetic.
Oh man.
Let's talk about Neebs.
Muslim matchmaking after dark. Okay,
Oh
so
yeah, and Neebs. Hey, Neebs, he's a good guy, man. He's not talking stuff after dark. We've already done an episode with him. I love him, but yeah, I think I'm a little bit different. He's Neebs before morning.
Yeah. Neeb's in the day, Sameem at night. Oh, so Neeb's really into nerdy stuff, right? He's a podcaster, as we know. He talks about nerdy stuff. His podcast called Salam Nerds. And then he gets to date a woman called Ferial first. And Ferial,
Cutie,
cutie,
super cute.
quintessential
Yeah,
cat lady.
cat lady, cute little lady. Yep.
Yeah, she's got a million cats, cats on her pot holder, cats on her apron,
Mm-hmm.
cats on her mugs, cats everywhere. She's also, what they didn't say on the show is she's divorced, and she talks about that on her Instagram. And so she really wanted to talk about that divorced experience, but it didn't actually come through. It was really just this like one date with Neebs, which was really cute at a little restaurant, little eatery, and he brings her chocolate roses, which I was really thoughtful and really
No,
cute.
no,
No, too much, a little
no,
too much, right?
hell no. And then he brings chocolates again the second time. I was watching that episode with Sophie, my daughter, and I just blurted out. I was like, hell no. She's like, what are you talking about? They're chocolates. I was like, you don't know, girl. I don't know. I think it's weird. Hey, I love you, Neebs, but let me know about the chocolates. We can talk about it.
So
You don't
I
know
was
her.
thinking,
You don't know her. What are you trying to get out of it?
yeah, also, yeah, that's the thing. It's a little bit too much. It's
Mhm.
like, yeah, you're right. Just like get to know the person. It kind of sets it up for like, okay, what's next? Then what are you going to do the next time? You know, you're setting the
Chocolate
bar too
fountain.
high.
He's gonna
Yeah.
stick his face in that chocolate fountain, just go like I don't know, like it's just too much chocolate.
There's yeah,
Oh,
exactly. Oh man.
okay.
So eventually what happens is like basically she says she's not really feeling it. He's not
Mhm.
her type, that she doesn't want to go through this with like the whole 3 dates, 3 months, 300
I get it.
questions process, right?
She's in North Carolina as well, we should say, and he's in New York City.
No, wasn't the other girl in North Carolina? She's
Both in
in
North Carolina.
no, Neebs is in New Jersey and this
Yeah.
girl's in North Carolina as well. I thought she was
Yeah.
in New York area. Okay.
No. So Farial and Farah, both
Okay.
his dates that he gets set up with are both in North Carolina.
I see.
So I should say Neebs does not mention his podcast. We know about it because we've recorded a podcast with him, but in terms of his like job, he's a electrical engineer. He's worked on the new World Trade Center building in downtown in New York. He was really, really proud of that. He said he went through some, frankly, racism on the job because they were like, Muslims shouldn't be building like the new World Trade Center. And he's like, I'm an American and I'm here and I'm proud of it to build this for the city that I love. So I thought that was really, really cute. And it just sucks in general, like
Yeah.
what people have to go through to live as Americans, as Muslims. And we're not sitting here complaining. We live pretty good lives, but why does
Yeah.
he have to go through that? Like
Yeah.
he's an electrical engineer. He's educated. He's American. Like on
Yeah.
top of everything else, that we're American first, and
Yeah.
to get shit on to build a new World Trade Center was kind of shitty. He does tear up as well. So
Yeah.
he's a great guy.
Yeah. And you're right that Farial is from North Carolina.
North
So
Carolina.
yeah, but the interesting thing is, do you fault her for just being like, okay, I know this isn't going to work for me,
No, I don't
or
fault her.
should she have?
No,
Okay,
I
I
don't
feel like
like when they made them feel bad about not doing the 3 dates.
okay, so this is my thing is I feel like that is something I would do. Like I can
Mm-hmm.
totally relate to her 100%. I would probably do something like that, but I also feel like I get why the show doesn't set her up with someone else then because it's almost like the show and the real life is separate. So she was like for my real life this isn't going to work for me, but the show is like this is the game of the show
Yeah,
and you dropped out of the game. So then you dropped out. You're done, right?
yeah.
Like so I kind of get that too and I feel like it is what it is, you know?
I mean, so let's describe the date. They meet at a casual restaurant. She's pretty fashionable. She
Yeah.
is a hijabi. She has a chai cart. She's
Mhm.
quintessential hipster little Pakistani girl. I think she was significantly younger than him. Unless she's 40, she looks great, but I don't think she was 40. What were they talking about? He kept talking about TV and comic books, and then she's like, I don't watch TV.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I'm like, oh shit, it's already over.
Yeah.
The one thing that was kind of strange was like the cats, like she's super into cats. I don't think it's a red flag to have cats. I had 2 cats for a long time. I think I still have a cat. It's at my daughter's house, but within 3-4 minutes of meeting someone, it's like a total trauma response. You're like, you got to check out pictures of my cats. And that's what
Yeah.
Fulani was doing. And she was not into it. She's just like, it's a
Yeah.
fucking cat. And I hesitate to say it like this, but it's like, you're not special because you have a cat. It's a fucking cat. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've had
Yeah.
cats. I have cat. My daughter loves cats. I'll cuddle with a cat. I fed my cats. It's a cat. I'm sorry if that happened to me in the last 3
Yeah.
weeks. She busted out
Yeah.
pictures of her cats, and I'm like, but what about you? What about
Yeah.
you? And she had nothing to
Yeah.
say. Right.
Yeah.
So that was it.
It's like an avoidance
I goes,
tactic
yeah.
maybe of like
I
you're
think it's
like,
an
well,
avoidance tactic. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And I
That's
think it's
interesting.
specifically cats. I don't think it's dogs.
Yeah. Interesting. That's interesting.
And I got
Well,
triggered again.
yeah. No, okay, so then let's talk about Farah. So
Yeah.
then Neebs meets Farah, and I guess we should call him Uneeb because that's what he goes by on the show, but we know him as Neeb, so it's kind of hard. I don't know. We'll switch back and forth. So he meets a girl named Farah, and they go on a bowling date, and it seems like they have a little more chemistry before they go on the date. Either Yasmin or Huda, one of them, talks to him about like dial back the whole TV cartoon thing. But
Hmm.
what's funny is he makes this joke. He's like, a red flag would be like somebody who's never seen a cartoon. It's like, what, did you not have a childhood? I was like, that's kind of funny. And it's true. Like, who's not seen a cartoon once in their life or as a child? Like, that would be weird,
That must be a
you know?
specific thing if he put it on his list. That means he dated someone and she had never seen a cartoon before.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why else would it be
Yeah.
on the list? Why else would it be on the
Yeah.
list, man?
Yeah.
He's like, man, you got to watch some cartoons with me. I get it. Ratatouille is my favorite movie, so I get it.
Yeah. So they go on this he dials that back, and he has a great bowling date with Farah, and it seems like they
Mhm.
really really connect. And then what we learn is that after this bowling date, he's all excited. He's like, I'm going to ask for her number. I'm going to see her again. Maybe I'll see her again tonight. And so like we get this cliffhanger, and then later we learn they went out to like a poetry reading and they had fun, but he ends up running into a couple other people he knows, and he has them join the date, and then she feels like he doesn't really care to hang out with her, and maybe he's not that into her. He just maybe
He
friend
should
zoned
have
her
just
or
said
whatever.
what he should have said. You know what he should have said? Mehram. And for the
Like
listeners out there, Mehram means that they cannot date without a chaperone.
chaperone. Yeah, he should have been like, I'm just trying to get these people to like be my chaperone because I just like,
Oh, she would have been like, "Oh, that's so hot.
oh
Let's
man,
go.
I don't know.
Let's
I don't know.
go." Hey, it
Is
only
that
takes
his
3
way?
sentences to get married, right? You get married, everything is legit, halal, 3 sentences. That's
So
all you have to do.
if he said these are my chaperones, would that be his way of being like, you're so hot, I need a chaperone?
That's exactly what I'm saying. If you
Yeah.
need a chaperone, it's because you don't have self-control. Like that,
Yeah.
hey, I'm gonna get a little Muslimy here in sense of defense, right? When
Yeah.
Muslim, I don't want to say Islam. I'm gonna say like the way of living, like the things that we have to do to follow Islam all came for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Back in the 600s, when a lot of the stuff was going on, yeah, you probably did need some fucking chaperones. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
People lived till they were 30. So by 12,
Yeah.
13 years old, they were horny as shit. Of course they needed chaperones.
Mm.
And I will say the reason they don't eat pig either is because people were dropping dead eating
Yeah.
nasty
Yeah.
ass pig in the Middle East. So I understand it was years ago and things evolved, but that is why a chaperone exists in Islam. And I don't think it's a bad idea. I do think
Yeah.
it's a bad idea if you're too horny to go on a date. That's a little weird.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
not the case, obviously. That's not the fucking case, but you know what I mean. It does. Yeah. Yeah.
Flashback to the appliance store date and toppers and bottoms, just saying. But anyways, so but yeah, so he has his other friends join. So like what
Stop.
move?
Stop.
I'm just saying.
Isn't it top
Anyways,
or bottom? I don't know. I don't care. Like what? I don't
yeah.
care. What is she even talking about? I think she was confused about her own sexual innuendo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think she's just confused. So he runs into friends, she feels ignored. And then they kind of go through this thing where like it was like this miscommunication because he does actually like her. So Huda and Yasmin try to like help communicate for them and let them know and tell him that he should reach out to Farah and like kind of explain to her. And so he does that. And then they kind of start talking again. But then I learned after the fact that it didn't work out.
No.
So
Yeah.
like, it is what it is. But
Okay. Well, what do you do if you run into friends on a date? I'd be super cool because my friends are cool, right? And
yeah.
I would look impressive. I think not all our friends.
Yeah. And well, okay. But I
Okay,
also think
Haldi Huma showing up on a first date of mine would be all bad.
that would, yeah. I think Halihoma, she might stir up some trouble. She might stir
You're
up some trouble.
you are literally gonna get a phone call. Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me? You're gonna leave this in?
Oh man,
She
oh
likes it.
man.
She likes it.
Yeah. But like, I think it depends on the friends, right? Like I feel like if you're really good friends with someone and you run into them on
Mhm.
a date, you would kind of wingman it, like be like, "Oh my god, it was so funny when you did XYZ," and then you talk to the person about them, right?
Yeah.
But maybe like those people didn't know if he was on a date or didn't want to make it awkward and don't know Neebs that well. Like we don't know who these friends were. So maybe they were all just treating her like another friend. And so she's like, oh, I guess I'm just like one of the friends. It's like a weird situation. It can go wrong or it can go really well. It just kind of depends on who the
Yeah.
friends are and how you handle it, I think.
She wanted him to ask questions about herself. She said that he did not. And he said
Yeah.
it's because I didn't want to ask her personal questions in front of my friends. So I
Yeah.
understand. Like,
Yeah.
and the funny thing is when you meet people, though, they probably were asking her the questions that Neebs should have been asking her. And she
Yeah.
references that. She's like, they were asking me the questions he should have been asking. So, like,
Crazy.
you can still ask people, hey, where are you from? Like, what are you into? Like, who cares? Like, it's all
Yeah.
pretty generic, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with knowing a few things about someone. So, yeah, I can tell Neebs got nervous, but she was cute too.
Yeah.
He's just a little, he comes on kind of strong, I would say. And that's why I
Yeah.
would say, do not bring those chocolates. And he brings her
Yeah.
chocolates too.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So,
Yeah. On a heart-shaped box.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
she wasn't even like Furry All, the first one, she was not into it. She's like,
Yeah.
I don't want these chocolates. Like, are you kidding me? These
Yeah.
are laced or something.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
they're not laced. Sorry. That's just a joke.
Yeah.
Man,
It's
I
just,
got to put everything I say is a joke. Everyone, by the way, Neebs is not lacing anyone. Like, I
yeah.
hope
No.
everybody recognizes that.
Yeah. He's the sweetest guy.
He's super cool. Yeah.
So moving on to Yasmin, the Algerian babe that dates Adnan Gate, and he's a insane
Yeah.
guy. So she's divorced. She's a little raw. You can tell she's tender. She moved to Istanbul for her like marriage and then moved back, which is really traumatic as a young woman. Like, I mean, I say that with all full recognition that this is exactly what my mom did at a time when there was no FaceTime and internet. So yeah,
Yeah.
like
I mean, yeah.
yeah. But when I think about it for someone in our generation, I'm like, that's like torture. Why would you do that? You have to adjust to a new marriage, a new country, a new everything. Like you literally like have to become a whole new person. That freaking sucks.
She got picked up on Instagram.
Yeah.
Algerian
Is that
babe.
where she met her
Yeah.
first guy?
She says
Oh,
that.
wow.
She said we met
I
on
missed that.
Instagram. And then within a year, she moved out there and married him. And then obviously COVID happened. And then it sounds like he was pretty dicky. Like she super references
Yeah.
it. So I don't know what he did, but yeah, she came back to the States. Good for her.
Sounds like maybe some like toxic, what do we call it? Emotional attachment energy there.
Exactly. What we talk about all the time, me included.
Yeah, exactly. So she said,
Excuse you.
Sorry. No, I mean, we just talked about it like right before this.
I literally am putting all my shit out there. I know, of course, man. You think I didn't grow up with toxic traits? Of course I did. Who am I gonna? Yeah. I think you can tell by the tone of my voice, anyways. So
yeah. So, well, the interesting thing that she says though is she says you can get to know a lot about a guy from watching him play sports. I was like, this is actually really smart, and I agree with her because you could see like, is he a team player? Does he yell at people? Is he trying to shit on everyone and be the captain even though he sucks, or is he actually normal and bringing the team together? And you know what else? Tip, ladies. If your potential husband has friends with kids and if other men let him around their wives and their children, that means that he's trustworthy.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's
wow.
A good tip. Yeah.
I never thought about that because I am like that. I mean, I hang out.
You are like
all
that.
my friends
you
are females.
Yeah. No, you're females and you're friends with their husbands, and then
totally,
your friends that have kids, you play with their kids. And no one's gonna let a weird ass man around their child,
Yeah.
So if a man like is able to hang out with his friends' kids and they let that, then that's a pretty good man.
I mean, I'm very good with kids.
Yeah.
Totally would babysit everything. Like I live in San Diego. I don't know anyone with kids down here, but all over the world, I love kids.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a great point. Wow. I never thought about it like that. Or cynical Sameem over here. What if he's just a creep and he's really, really good at hiding the creepiness?
Sure, but if a man has friends that have been friends with him for like 5+ years who let them around his family, that's significant.
Longevity is different. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Especially without any red flags. Like he hasn't done anything yet. Queen Miriam does make that point, right? Or was it Bucky? Who says that a hot man his entire life might be some red flags. And I also think a man that is like genuinely perfect, I don't trust. Especially if you're like 35 and up and you just don't have any sort of like, you don't get mad, you don't get angry, you don't have any opinions. if you don't have any opinions, I don't care about tone of voice or emotion. It's more about the opinions. You're just like, just live life. He's lying.
That's how
He's lying.
Adnan was, right?
He's lying. Oh, dude,
Yeah,
that guy
he's total.
Adnan, dude, that guy is the worst fucking guy on the show. By the way, I can't wait
Yeah,
until I haven't roasted anyone yet. Queen Miriam, she's even like okay, right? Like
yeah.
she ghosted Umar. She didn't. Whatever.
She's
That shit
insecure,
happens.
whatever. Yeah,
This guy sucks. And what he said
yeah.
to, uh, as you put it,
Yasmin.
Algerian babe Yasmin,
Yeah,
it was fucked up. So fucked up.
yeah. Yeah, and so they go karting, and he doesn't really give a fuck about her putting on her helmet and
It was
getting
hilarious, yeah.
situated.
And she's like, "Don't leave." She literally
Yeah,
says, "Don't leave." It's like Hulu told him to leave. I'm like, how is
yeah,
this even a real thing? She's like, she looked hilarious, by the way. The helmet wouldn't go over the hijab.
yeah. That was funny.
We're not making fun of
Classic,
Muslims. We're not making fun of hijabs.
classic
Like it's
hijab issue,
yeah,
though, right? Like,
yeah,
but it was just funny.
yeah. When you're
Like,
getting
I don't
strapped
know.
up on your motorcycle, yeah, dude, you can't like fucking put that helmet over your hijab.
Over your like bun in the back of your hijab. Yeah.
Hey, she was cute.
So
I'm not gonna
sh-
lie. Like you're,
she's
yeah, she's. I
beautiful.
know,
She's
I
really,
know.
really pretty.
I had some thoughts while I was finishing the series. Who I would want to date because they're all
Yeah.
still single.
Yeah.
I landed on maybe Yasmin, the actual matchmaker, just because we're both divorced with kids and we're both twice divorced. So she even brings
Yeah.
it up, which I thought was super cool. I know we talked about in the first episode, but
Yeah.
this Yasmin, no, dude, she's like 21, even though she's been married. Like
Yeah.
she's, I
No,
don't know how
she's
old
like,
she is,
isn't
but
she like 26 or something or 28? I think
I don't
she's
know. But
like,
that was the
yeah.
worst match I've ever seen. Adnan and
Yeah.
her, that was not a good match. I
Yeah.
can't, I don't even know what the matchmakers were thinking putting him in.
No, they're both good looking people, right? But I don't know who
Yeah.
he thinks he is. Like, I don't
He
know.
had no
She's real.
personality. He had nothing going for him
Yeah.
other than being a
Yeah.
complete dick.
Yeah. So, I don't know why in my notes I put Fariel and Adnan, but that wouldn't work either. Oh, Fariel versus Adnan, yeah, because I almost think that Fariel
Yeah.
did the same thing Adnan did, but she did it in just a so much more fucking normal way to just say like, I didn't click. I don't think we had anything in common, whatever. But for him to then, now you can go on your rant, but
Mhm.
I'll let the listeners know what happened is he breaks up with Yasmin by basically telling her the divorce, meaning her being divorced, threw him off because he didn't know that, not that it's a deal breaker in parentheses.
He's
And then
lying.
he says, yeah. And then he says, and she's not his type physically.
No. Come on,
Yeah.
man. Come
Yeah.
on. You can't do that. You can't do
Yeah.
that. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that she thinks that you're not her type. She's going to think nobody's her type. Like
Yeah.
she's going to
Yeah.
think she's not attractive and she's going to develop self-esteem issues. I cannot believe he sent that.
Yeah.
I'm not experienced, man. I'm divorced as shit too, but I'm not telling people that they're not my type. That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, also, what is he talking about, dude? She's gorgeous. So
Yeah.
I don't really know what
Exactly.
he's saying. Like, I was like, what do you want? What do you want? Dude, some big booty hoe? Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
Like, go find it
Yeah.
then. Get the fuck off
Yeah.
Muslim matchmaking. Hey, stop disrespecting my sisters, man. I don't like it. And you're right. I did want to go on a rant. I didn't like that guy at all.
Yeah,
Honestly.
yeah. So Yasmin the matchmaker says a non-gate is an incident where a man who thinks he's better than a woman says things that are mean in the hopes of somehow being the merciful one.
No, that's great. I think we should
Yeah.
let this linger a little bit. And we do have male listeners, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And don't do that, guys. Like, don't do that. Like, be
Yeah.
respectful. And if you want to be
Yeah.
mean to someone, be mean to yourself and then get better.
Be critical of yourself and then get
Yeah, I
better.
learned the
Yeah.
hard way. Like, it's not a good idea.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from that disgusting Adnan gate, let's move on to Bucky.
My girl, what's up?
Bucky's awesome. So Bucky does not, like you said, want to marry someone who's been good looking their whole life because you can't trust them. And I totally agree with her. And this is part of the problem with Blake Lively is she's been good looking her whole life. So, you just might become a Blake Lively if that's happened to you. So,
I don't know. I mean, she's hilarious. And then she says, but I also only date hot guys. So,
yeah.
okay, well, you're the
She,
one putting yourself in this situation.
yeah, but she wants them to have been ugly at some point. You know what I mean? Like,
What do you think she's trying to say? I'm really going to be careful about what I say, but she is a dermatologist. She does have some glowy features, and it does look like things may have been rearranged. And that's all I'm going to say.
She looks like she has been taking advantage of the perks of her job. I mean, like, why
Why not?
not? Who
Yeah. No,
wouldn't?
I'm not
Yeah.
judging it at all. She looks great. I think she looks
Yeah.
great, and I think she's actually a very cool, down to earth person. She's 30 years old, so in
Mhm.
my mind, she's somewhat, young, but I
She's
like her.
also Pakistani and Punjabi like you, so, if
She's
only
also
she
a
was a
stand-up.
few years older.
She's also a stand-up
Oh,
comedian. I know.
oh,
I
just
know.
like you've dabbled a
No,
bit?
I've
Yeah?
dabbled a bit, but hey, this is better for me because I like doing this and yelling shit without an audience that I can actually see. I know there's an audience, and this audience is bigger than a stand-up crowd, obviously, because it's on the internet. But she's a stand-up. Her shit sucked.
Well, one thing
The
that
one
she said
clip
was,
they showed, I was like, really? Like, this is your clip?
well, you didn't like the whole, Muslims are told to lower their gaze, that's why they have foot fetishes. But they have foot fetishes?
Shabnam, you think we haven't made that joke?
Yeah, it's not
You think we
original, I
haven't
guess.
made every fucking desi Muslim joke? Even the famous comedians. You think I haven't made those jokes since I was like 1996? I can assure you, at MCA family camp or whatever that thing is that we used to go to, we
Yeah,
made those foot fetish jokes, but we couldn't
yeah.
make them on the microphone when I did that family camp thing, the campfire. So we made them behind people's back, and they perpetrated Muslim American society, and now they end up in 30-year-olds' heads when
Yeah,
they were children,
and
right? So
yeah.
it's a good joke, but that is the quintessential Muslim joke: is we develop foot fetishes because they tell us to look at people's feet, and that's it. We can't
Yeah,
look anywhere else. So thanks, Bucky, for putting it out there. But we've made that joke before.
yeah.
Um, maybe she has a foot fetish. Actually, maybe that's why she brought it up.
I don't know. But, buck actually means yapping, a yapper yapping, and
Mm,
she's kind of a badass, so I would
she's
wanna
cool.
call her
What's her
badass
real
buck.
name?
Bakhtawer
Mm,
Wakas.
hello. Imagine
That's
just
a
saying,
hardcore
yeah.
name, man.
I'm gonna call her tonight. Be like, Bakhtawer, ab kya kar rahi ho? Kuch ho raha hai?
No, you have to talk to her in Punjabi if you really want, like, the
I don't know
whole
Punjabi, but my Urdu's pretty good. People are gonna be
it
surprised.
is.
I know.
Oh, you surprised me, shoot. So she ends up dating this guy, Rehan, who's kind of dorkier than her.
Hmm.
And they go on a first date and they have dinner. And at first, it's really awkward. And then the way he breaks the ice is by asking her how she would leave a bad date, like how she
Yeah,
would escape. That
yeah.
that
He
was
saw
pretty awesome.
that shit on TikTok or Reddit, and he's like, "Oh my god, I'm doing terribly. I need to ask her."
Yeah.
He was having a fucking meltdown because he couldn't get any water, and he was like sweating because he's so nervous. I would have been nervous too, man. This guy, like, come on, Bucky and
She
Rayhan. No,
she's out of his league for sure.
I think she just wanted the attention. Like she liked
Yeah,
the
and
attention.
the date goes well. They exchange
Yeah,
numbers,
he
whatever.
is
And
funny.
but
I will say he got funnier. Like, yeah.
yeah, he did. It seemed like they had like good conversation, but then her friends end up seeing that he's on a dating app still, and I was kind of happy to see that she wasn't really pissed about it. Like,
Mhm.
of course, it's going to sting a little to anyone, even though everybody does that. But I don't think he needed to get off the app.
I
But
don't think
he
there was
just,
anything wrong with that. Like, if
I don't think there's
like,
anything wrong with
yeah,
that. It just hurts
it,
your ego, right? Like, I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. I don't.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not on any apps now because I deleted them. But I don't know. I wouldn't think about deleting salams if I had a salam with like some woman one time. Like,
yeah,
it just
yeah,
so. I don't think she even cared that much, to be honest. It didn't seem like she cared.
yeah. And it seemed like they both kind of like, this is going to take more effort than we're willing to
Yeah,
put in because they were like geographically kind of far apart. But
yeah.
again, like this brings up my whole thing about like ghosting, right? Like I think that it seemed like if he was a little more interested, maybe she would have made effort, but he wasn't really making effort. And I think it's because he knows that she's out of his league.
He also flew from Chicago to New York, and she said she had never been to Chicago. I don't think he thought it was going to work out, but he seemed really nervous when he first met her because, yeah, she's totally out of his league. And one thing I wanted to say here, and this is somewhat of a rant, but I'm going to be pretty serious. I hated the way they treated Bucky's parents. The show treated
Mm,
them well. It
okay.
sounds like the community treated them like shit. And I think one of the reasons she
Oh,
kind of alludes
yeah.
to it, she doesn't say it out loud. My dad was a yellow cab driver when he first came
Mm,
here. He's always been a yellow cab driver, and now he drives Uber. And her parents had a love marriage.
yeah.
And I think it's super rare. And I hate this community for the fact that she can't get married because her dad drives Uber. That
Yeah.
there shouldn't be any correlation
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
your marriage prospects and what
Your
your dad
dad's,
does.
yeah, yeah.
And that is unfortunately a core tenet of this community. I'm only saying community in a very general sense because there's so much
But also,
individualistic
like,
action. But
yeah.
overall, that is a very, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so there's a lot of things happening here, right? There's this, like, religious Muslim matchmaking element, and then there's all these subcultures
Mhm.
within that because there's a really diverse
Yeah.
group of people they showed on here, right? And so what you're just talking about, I mean, I'm sure maybe, like, in other cultures, there's parts of this there, but this is, like, a South Asian American thing, right? And I've
Yeah.
talked a little bit about this in our episode with Lexi that just aired and in a couple other previous episodes as well, where, like, South Asians that came to the US, especially in the second half of the 1900s, they came for education, so they're a little more, like, they're a little elitist, okay? Like,
Mhm.
we're a little elitist, classist community.
Yeah.
And that's where this is coming from, right? And it sucks.
Yeah. And I didn't like it. I don't know. I think that's probably what bothered me the most. And I know
Mhm.
it's not a reflection of Hulu, it's not a reflection of the show. It's just a different trigger, right? So we try to be very honest on this podcast, and it's not to like shit on people. It's not to shit on the community. It's just, hey, be wary when you meet someone.
Yeah,
You don't know
yeah.
what their family's thinking. You got to be real.
And it's
Um,
also to acknowledge her challenges, right? That she can be this, like, amazing person, but the reality is that she's suffering this challenge because of bullshit, really,
yeah.
right? So, like, we're just empathizing with her,
Hey,
you
she's
know?
more
And
impressive than other Muslims that I've met. We know, dude, Shabnam, we know billionaire Muslims. We know $100
yeah,
million Muslims. We know
yeah,
Muslims with money because, like you said, they came here to make that money. She's one of the most impressive women just in general. It's not even about being Muslim or Pakistani. She's a doctor. She's beautiful. She's
yeah,
really well spoken. And I don't think she's mean. You can tell Queen Miriam was a problem, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
Bucky doesn't seem like a problem.
No,
So,
yeah.
like, poor girl. I don't know if she's married. Maybe we can do a little internet Instagram stalking after this. But
I looked on her Instagram yesterday. She's
mhm.
not married. She's having a Galentine's Day out like a couple days ago. So good for her.
Hey, I've
And
never done the whole DM thing, but hey, maybe I'll start. I'm like, I just convinced myself to go after Bucky. I know, no, she's 30. Never mind.
yeah, you're too old for her.
Yeah, only person I could go after is Neebs. Age specific.
All right. Okay, moving on to Imran from San
My
Francisco, who's
boy,
a
what's up, dude?
yeah,
Malaysia.
he's a pilot as a hobby. I mean, who
Hmm.
doesn't think that's cool?
Yeah.
And we got to see flashes of our city or my city, your old stomping ground, if you
Hmm.
will.
Hmm.
So, like you said, Imran's Malaysian. He gets set up with the cutest little Malaysian girl,
Oh, she's
Nurin
so
from
cute.
She's such a Polly Pocket. I love Polly
Yeah.
Pockets. She's a little
Yeah.
Polly Pocket. Yeah, you were married to a Polly Pocket. Maybe I'll take that out, but
Give me a second. Let's leave it in.
okay.
Hey, it's been 16 months, 14 months or some shit. At some point, like we gotta I gotta be able to talk, right? So
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so their first date is a coffee
mm.
shop. They're really cute together. He tells her he got his pilot's license as a hobby and asks if he can take her on a flight, and she says, "Take me."
Take me.
So things are going good. They're very promising. But this is another thing is he says he wants someone with Islamic qualities, which is a very broad statement, and I feel like that's what people say when you're just like you want someone that shares some values with you, but you're too immature to actually know what your values are and what you really want. So you're just going to say some
Yeah.
broad bullshit like that, you know?
Yeah.
And
And
he's 25. So what does he
he's
know?
young. He's so young.
Yeah.
And of course, like Malaysians are very Muslim. His mom
Yeah.
shows up and basically
Yeah.
tells him, you need to marry a Muslim girl. My favorite thing about Imran was, I don't drink. I was like, something's about to show up here. And
Yeah.
he's like, well, work events. That's all
Yeah.
I'm going to say. And then he
Yeah.
stops.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, you drink. You drink.
Yeah.
You drink.
Yeah.
It's either yes
Yeah.
or no. It's not, there's no gray area in Islam. There were no corporate events
Yeah.
1400 years ago when we were told to stop drinking. There was
Yeah.
no tech scene, happy hour. Hey, you got to drink to get ahead. I know why he has to drink. I worked in that
Yeah.
industry. You know I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I'm announcing right now, I'm free and clear of the tech industry. I'm super happy. Shout out old companies for taking care of me. I'm so happy. But Imran, keep drinking at those events, man. It's gonna take you to the top.
Get your bag while you can.
Exactly. Hey, what's he gonna do? Like, how's
Yeah.
he gonna get ahead? This sort of conversation amongst Muslim people in tech, I've had this conversation for the last 25 years, and it's like
Mhm.
it is somewhat difficult to get ahead if you're not part of that boys' crew. So
Yeah, yeah.
he drinks at events. You cannot fault him for that. I just thought it was hilarious the way he brought it up.
The way he brought it up was absolutely hilarious. So he takes her, they fully engage in this 3 months, 3 dates in person, 300 questions. They
Yeah.
do the whole thing. They have these FaceTimes where they talk about wanting to get a minivan and have 4 kids because that's a good amount of kids you can fit in a minivan. Like, they do the whole shebang, like fully buy into the process. And she comes back to San Francisco. He does take her on that
Yeah.
flight and they have a
Ugh.
great time.
I hated it. Would you get on that plane? Would you get on that plane?
It was little,
It was
and
little, right over San
yeah,
Francisco. Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'd get on that plane. I would just go to
there
the top of 50 California, right? You can go to the top of
yeah.
50 California. It's a public park, everyone. Hey, tourists to San Francisco, there's 17 public parks in San Francisco on top of buildings. Don't go in people's fucking planes.
Yeah, because there's a lot of fog in San Francisco too,
Yeah.
you know?
I
I don't
was
know, man.
sweating when I was watching that
Yeah,
scene. She loved it though.
yeah,
It was super cute, like the way that they
yeah,
interacted. I liked it.
yeah. So they enjoy that, but you can tell, and he even talks to his friends, like when he has his friends over,
Yeah.
and he's like, "There's just something missing." I just think he's not like
He's in his
ready to
head.
get married.
He's
I
not.
think he's in his
Yeah.
head, and I think he's too young, and I think he needs some growing to do. I mean, look, San Francisco is the city of Peter Pans. If you're
Mm.
25 and you're living in San Francisco, you're not getting married. Like, you're not getting
Uh,
married. I'm
San
sorry.
Diego number 1, probably San Francisco number 2.
Okay, sure,
San Diego's
fine.
worse, but yeah.
Sure, but he's in a Peter Pan city. Like,
Yeah.
he's not going to get married. If he was going to get married at 25, he would be in like Houston, Texas with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like,
I mean, they're not feeling each other like you say. He wasn't feeling her initially. Then I think due to the 3 dates rule that Yasmin and Huda have, he started feeling her. And then
mhm.
she actually ends it with him, which I thought was
Yeah.
kind of interesting because I thought she might be into him, but hey, we're 51 minutes in. We're almost done with this. I've been like holding this back, and now we're like about 2 hours into this whole thing. But there is a component of marriage that they don't talk about and they never get to talk about, and then they have to experience after they get married. And that's all I'm gonna really say. And
Were you talking
I
about
think,
sex?
I mean, maybe I don't
There's
know.
apparently sex questions as part of those 300 questions. You just
They
don't
don't say it
start
though.
with those.
Yeah,
Yasmin said it on The View
that's
that
right.
there's
She did.
sex
Yeah,
questions. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's almost worse.
I
Imagine talking to a Muslim woman about what she might like in sex, and you don't know if she's had sex, and you'll never know. By the way, I that's actually what I was gonna say was I didn't think we were watching 14 virgins trying to navigate marriage. Maybe 12. I don't know who. I don't really care. I'm just saying it's a little weird because if you remove that component, which you should, because if you want to be a good Muslim, you can't do it. I totally get it, but I don't know. I don't know. And I don't have any experience either because I'm sitting here single as shit too. So I don't know. I didn't think I thought the men had the ideas in their head, but how are they supposed to ask? I guess I'm asking you. Like how do you deal with that sort of conversation? I can't ask a Muslim woman sex questions. I just can't. Like it's not going to happen. I couldn't even say uncle takes it up the ass on the White Lotus episode with Amanda.
Yeah, but that was about incest. Right. This
Well,
is
that's not
about
his uncle,
right.
so it was
Well,
about
yeah,
fake
or
incest.
it
But
was
yeah.
yeah. Okay, but I mean, I don't know. Like, you have to ask it eventually. I don't know. I'm not the arbiter of like how to ask it. I think like when people get one-on-one, they're fine asking people stuff. They're regular people. It's not like people don't have those
Yeah.
conversations, you know?
But that okay, so that's exactly the point. They're regular people, which is a function, a bodily function, right?
Yeah.
To make it that awkward, I don't know. Like we can leave it here, certainly. I think
Yeah.
there's a distinction between dating in the Western culture and the culture that we just discussed. Obviously, like sex comes first almost, right? Before you
Mhm.
even get to know someone, I think in American culture, Western culture, not everybody, obviously, but yeah, it's a pretty You know, I've
That's what
seen
my mom
Friends.
says.
I've seen
She's
Friends.
like, in this culture, everybody does things backwards. They jump into bed and they have a baby, and then later they get married. So
Yeah, and then you
backwards.
figure it
So
out.
now-
Yeah, then you can argue the 50% divorce rate, whether it's young kids or older people, or I don't know in what stage of
Yeah.
life that they get married, but you can't argue by pure numbers the divorce rate's
Yeah.
pretty high. I'm only responsible for like 30% of that, you know. So it's not like
Yeah.
it's not like I'm immune, but I don't know. Overall, those are my thoughts. It's not very congruent. I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything congruent in marriages.
I don't think there's
I
anything congruent
yeah,
about relationships or
about
meeting people.
relationships. Yeah,
Everybody comes up with their own formula. This
yeah,
rule of 3.
exactly.
Then there's
Yeah.
Seamonty. Then there's online dating, and like,
Then there's societal pressures.
yeah, and there's
And we're not
societal
talking
pressures.
about our culture. It's just in
And
general.
and I feel
Yeah.
like some people will get married from every version of this stuff, but I don't know that anything works better than the other, because people are just weird, and it's weird to date. It's weird to get to know someone, and it's a weird thing to marry a stranger and make them the most important person to you in your life, like decades into your life. That's just a weird ass concept, but
But we
everybody
know
does
people.
it. Yeah.
We know so many people. 48
I mean,
hours, they got married.
40. Oh, I don't
Right?
know anybody 48 hours.
Are you serious?
Who do we know someone that I'm not thinking of 48 hours?
I don't think we know people together that got
Okay.
married after 48 hours. I'm not even talking about 48 hours. I'm talking about like, okay, I guess I can say this story then, and I'm probably going to get in trouble, but my cousin from America, born and raised, texts me, I'm going to Pakistan tomorrow. I said, okay, cool, have fun. Text me the
Yeah.
next day, I got engaged. Okay, bro, what are you talking about? Text me 12 hours later, now I'm married. He was
Holy
in
shit.
he was in Pakistan for 48 hours. He was back
That's
in
insane.
the States within 3 full days.
Wow.
And they're happy. They have kids. She's super cool. It worked for them.
I guess it can, it can work for people, whatever way it works for people, and more power to them, I guess.
I sound super
Yeah.
confused. I'm sorry, listeners. That last
Aren't
5
we all,
minutes.
though? Aren't we all?
I forgot I was recording this podcast. I thought I was just talking.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's snap out of
Sitting
it.
here. All right.
Jingle out. Good
Yeah,
luck,
let's jingle
everybody.
outta
Good luck,
here.
Neebs. Good luck, Fulani. Good luck, Queen Mariam.
And good
hey,
luck,
Bucky,
Yasmin. We
hit
love
me up.
you.
Yeah, Yasmin, hit me up too.
Dun, 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 dun.
Later, y'all.
Woohoo.